times when cultural practices were the only solution. But with the advent of chemicals, herbicides, or weedicides, selective, non-selective, the whole weed science has evolved, which is still very much within very much a part of ecosystem, and there is debate. Should we be looking after the ecosystem more or asking for more productivity? Uh, Today we have a very balanced panel. We will be hearing about ecology, weed management strategies, and herbicide side of this story. This episode, I would like to give special credit to Professor Zahat Chima. He has been hammering in this idea to me for last 3 months that this is extremely important component. We had detailed sessions on seed and fertilizer as two important inputs, but seed and fertilizer alone would never maximize the productivity because weeds take share of nutrients, and weeds compete with the crop, and weeds are costly part of the cropping system. So with this quick overview that I could have offered, I'm a weed scientist, I'm a learner. May I ask Chima Saab to give his opening remarks and invite the first speaker? Chima Saab, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I'm really happy to have this debate, and I appreciate your permission and your input. And really, I'm thankful to all the participants, those who are debating. And this topic, as you already mentioned, is a very important and crucial topic. And for productivity, weeds really, they hinder a lot in crop productivity, so we have to control. It's not possible to remove the weeds, but eliminate the weeds, but we can minimize, we can reduce the weeds, and we can promote the crops. And I think should not take much time, but it's better we should ask the speakers. And with your permission, sir, if you allow, I think we should invite the first speaker. He is Dr. Ali Hassan Bajwa. He was our brilliant student, now is residing in Australia, Wagga Wagga Charles Sturt University, is a researcher. And I would request Ali Hassan Bajwa to talk and start this debate. He will give some introduction to the weeds problem, and then overall losses caused by the weeds to the crops. And in advanced countries, there are significant losses. So I think this debate will help us to control the weeds in Pakistan.
Chima Sahab, I would like to add to all participants and speakers that please keep yourself mute while the speaker is holding the stage. And to the speakers, I request to limit your presentations to 15 minutes each. We have 5 to 6 speakers, so that will take us to almost 90 minutes limit. So 15 minutes each, please. Ji Bajwa Sahab, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I would really like to thank Professor Dr. Iqrar Ahmed Khan, Dr. Zahida Chima, and Dr. Muhammad Farooq for inviting me to talk on this debate. And I think it's really a great opportunity to discuss some of the major issues related to weed ecology and management. I just shared some slides, so just let me know if you can see. So can you see the PowerPoint presentation, please?
They're visible.
Yep. So as we are going to discuss weed ecology and management as part of this discussion, just briefly about myself. So I did my PhD in weed science at the University of Queensland in Australia, and my topic was on invasion biology and management of parthenium weed, which we all know is one of the most invasive species. Um, so when we talk about the weeds, and in general, it's a broad term, and we put together invasive plant species and some of the agricultural weeds, but generally it's more inclined towards the agricultural settings, but we also need to really take care of the issue that it includes invasive plant species plus agricultural weeds. So it's a sort of umbrella term. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview about the ecology and management and the issues related to the weed management in Pakistan. So as we know, weeds are sort of pests that are generally underrated, and losses are not recorded well, and we usually underestimate what the weeds are and what are the losses. Really nice to present this table, hot off the press. Great effort by Dr. Amar Matloob and his co-authors. So as we can see, the big five, so our major five crops in Pakistan agriculture, maize, rice, cotton, wheat, and sugarcane. So the yield losses only due to weeds can easily run into, somewhere between 20 to 50%. So which is a great loss only due to weeds. And if we see in monetary terms, the economic losses, there are huge losses due to weeds. So it's not only direct yield losses, but also the investment we have to make in terms of control, herbicide control, and other management tactics we use. And this is sort of raw data. We can see how much loss weeds can make in each crop. So just for an example, in wheat crops, so you can see annual economic loss is up to $450 million. So that's a great issue, and we need to be dealing with it. The other one I would like to present is we did a comprehensive survey across Punjab, around 16 districts, and that's on parthenium. So this data is showing, the per household loss per year. And as you can see from this slide, that the losses can be multifarious. So there are certain on-farm management cost, and then there is direct impact on livestock and fodder production, animal health, human health. So we can be easily losing anywhere between 500 to 2,000 bucks per year. So which is a great strain on rural households in Pakistan. So we need to take this into account, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of data, especially for the weeds and their impact in Pakistan. So we need more research in this area. So what's the fundamental problem here? So as we look at the weeds globally, and if we consider how they impact agriculture and what's the major problem. So in terms of management, about 95% effort is made to deal with the above ground weed infestations, and that's where the problem exists. So we ignore this iceberg, which is way too bigger below ground. So that's the weed seed bank. Each year we see, we try to manage above ground infestations, ignoring the weed seed bank, and that's where we need the long-term work and management efforts. So I have enlisted some of the major challenges facing weed management and crop production in Pakistan. So top of the list, I would say it's biological invasion, and it's easily ignored in our case. So we don't care unless it's in the crop, but we have been seeing a lot of different invasive plant species that are introduced accidentally or intentionally in Pakistan. So they are, um, they are expanding their range. And the other issue we are facing is due to changes in management over the past several years. There has been a big shift. So we are observing the peak of that now. So moving from conventional agriculture towards more conservation tillage practices and those sort of production systems such as direct seeded rice and so on. So with those, we are definitely seeing a lot of shift in the weed flora. There is niche shift and range shift. So some of the weeds that were there, they're not a big issue anymore, but some others, there are some emerging weeds that we need to deal with. The other one is herbicide resistance. It's a huge issue internationally. And if we see in the US and Australia, hundreds and hundreds of cases of multiple herbicide resistance in different species, but we don't see a lot of data. In fact, according to the International Herbicide Resistance Survey, we only have got one case registered, and that's for Phalaris minor in Pakistan. And same is the status for India. It's about 6 cases. So maybe it's just a matter of less screening, as you would be aware of with this term more in COVID context. So if you don't test more, you don't find more. So it's a matter of finding how much resistance is existing in our systems. There is another issue of herbicide use and efficacy related issues. So we know there are some malpractices going on. We're not using judiciously. We are cutting the rate, not using the recommended rates. And that is also leading towards the evolution of herbicide resistance. And to add to the misery is the climate change. So this is the reality of today, and we are facing huge issues with in general with the in pest invasions, but especially for the weed species. We have seen over the years that changing climate, especially the global warming, it's facilitating introduction of new species, but also making existing species further difficult to control. Just on that note, I'd like you to have a look at this slide. So this is, again, an example of parthenium weed. So we have 2 different biotypes here, and the comparison is between ambient carbon dioxide, which we are having at the moment. So that's around 400 parts per million. And on the left-hand side, there is elevated. So that's the scenario for the later half of this century. So it's about 700 parts per million. As you can see, the plants are almost double the height, producing lots of more biomass branching, and we observed a huge increase in seed production. So that's only carbon dioxide. If you add, further temperature or drought conditions, most of these environmental changes are facilitating these weed species. So in this context, I think understanding of basic weed ecology and biology is really important. So this is just a general overview of an annual weed life cycle. And there are certain points where we can intervene, and we must intervene to properly manage these weeds. So these things I encircled. So these are the points where we can reduce the weed pressure, or where we can intervene to reduce the seed bank. So the aim of any weed management program to be sustainable should be to minimize the seed deposits and maximize the withdrawals. By that, I mean that we should encourage the management of emerging infestations, but we should also focus the weed seed bank. Why germination ecology or ecology in general is important? Another example, as you can see, this is in dark light or complete dark conditions, a range of different temperatures starting from, as low as 15, 5-day night temperature up to 35, 25. And as you can see, this weed can pretty much germinate at any temperature. And this is a worry. So most weed species are shifting towards, from typical summer annuals or typical winter annuals to perennials. And that's why we are seeing most of these species emerging throughout the year. So what options or opportunities we do have? So I like to present this as a framework. So we should be focusing on weed biology and ecology in general, but also how we can intervene in the seed dispersal. We should be doing more research on invasion mechanisms of weed and the nexus between weeds and climate change. That's important, and we should be doing more work. And then the classic work on weed crop interference, knowing the crop competition, critical competition period is really important. And then this knowledge can add to the knowledge of impacts of weeds so that we can assess them properly and manage them properly for more sustainable management in the long run. And that's definitely going to add to the crop production. Uh, so this is an example of a classic sort of diversified rotation and farming systems experiment. So we have been running for the last 3 years here in New South Wales. That's funded by the Grains Research and Development Corporation in Australia. As you can see, we have multiple sites, and we have been looking at not only the crop production, but also what impact it has on the long-term weed seed bank. And then we are using some predictive modeling to see how it will impact. And we're finding some interesting results that disruptive rotations, moving away from the monocropping or continuous cropping systems, because we know they are adding to the concentration of weed flora. We will have more problematic associated weed species such as echinoclea in rice, and similarly wild oats and other weed species in wheat. So to disrupt this, we should take it as a whole package. So we should be considering, um, you know, disruption in cropping sequence, but it will also involve different modes of action of herbicides. And with these diverse rotation, as you can see in this example, so we had a canola crop followed by following wheat and lentil rotation, and this is a seed bank study. So you can easily see the difference between um, following three different crops in a sequence rather than having wheat in a sequence followed by canola. So there is a huge difference in wheat pressure. The other big thing we can easily incorporate in our systems, and we are moving towards that, I must say, and that's the ground cover systems. So here we can incorporate some of the, stubble management, but we also may involve some cover crops, and that's a big thing happening right now globally. So that's the way we can, incorporate the smoothing effects of the crops, but also exploit the allelopathy. And that's, we know, as Dr. Chima has been doing a lot of work in this space, and I think it has huge potential. It must be explored in different ways, not only in rotations, but also using cover crops. And then we can see legacy effects of these crops in the long term that can have on the weeds. So moving forward, some of the big things we should be focusing in weed management space in Pakistan, biosecurity is important. So we know the weeds are jumping the fence. So by that, I mean invasive species will be coming into the cropping system. So we need to tighten our biosecurity measures. We need to focus on biologicals, and that includes both biological control of environmental weeds, but also exploring allelopathy and other, biologically safe methods. Diversity is the key, so we should diversify our management tools plus our crops. Um, there are some innovative tools that are coming on the horizon. I see some opportunities, but we need to be cautious and we need to be vigilant that how we incorporate those in our systems. So for example, herbicide tolerant crops looks great. US is paying the price after um, rapidly adopting the glyphosate resistant crops. Now they are facing evolution of herbicide resistance in most of the weed species. So that glyphosate resistance is no more good for the crop production there. Similarly, precision weed management, the big problem would be small land holding. So we need to be addressing this issue before trying to adopt this sort of system in our context. Above all, we need a true integrated weed management. And by that, I mean is we should be combining most technologies, so cultural plus mechanical and chemicals. There is no single bullet for weed management. As we know, it was more of a, just focusing on herbicides and more herbicides. That's not going to work now. So we are lucky that we still do have some of the cultural practices incorporated in our systems. We need to keep those, and we need to preserve our herbicides for future use. And with the increasing social pressure on, the use of herbicides, and we might be losing glyphosate, who knows? So we should be really careful, and we should be adopting site-specific integrated weed management strategies. So the bottom line is we should not repeat the mistakes we have been doing in the past, or we have seen in other countries. So there is a huge chance we can adopt good integrated weed management strategies if we devise those programs in the longer run. And the other thing, so with that, I think just one personal note that I think the weed science deserve a bit more attention in Pakistan, to be honest. We need more training for the young generation, and we should be producing more weed scientists. With that, I would like to thank you all. Thank you very much.
Hey, Chima Saab, excellent presentation by Dr. Bajwa. Please invite the next speaker.
Next, really thankful to Bajwa, and he was speaking very nicely. The next speaker is Dr. Azim Khan. He is a weed scientist and researcher teacher at Peshawar Agriculture University, and his topic of the talk is weed management strategies. Please over to Dr. Azim Khan.
Thank you very much, Professor Chima and all respected scientists. You all are my teachers, and I usually read your research papers. Even yesterday, one of my students gave me a paper written that was related to allelopathy. Do you hear me? Hello?
You're audible.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Presentation. Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Presentation. As per advice of the Professor Chima, I was assigned the task of presenting related to weed management strategies. Before going to the weed management strategies, I want to present some background. I was for 4 or 5 years, I was working on weed control methods. But after my PhD studies in 2007, probably due to the age factor, my mind was changed, and nowadays I am looking for the benefits that we can get from different weeds. Because if we consider weeds as a resource, weeds control erosion, and they provide food for the wildlife, for the animals. We can see that our poor people collect the wild plants or the weeds from different fields, and they provide to their animals. Because in India and Pakistan, very limited area is devoted to the cultivation of fodder crops. So that is why weeds provide fodder for our animals. In addition, weeds is also a source of green vegetable for the poor families like Parchuleca oleracea, which is a weed, but on the other hand, it is used as a green vegetable by so many people. Even many people collect this plant and sell in the market. They provide medicine, add organic matter to the soil, and is a source of recycling of nutrients. Similarly, presence of weeds provide genetic material because in the past, when many diseases spread throughout the world, then there were certain genes, resistant genes, that were available in the wild plants. They were transferred to the cultivated plants, and still those different crop plants are resistant to those genes. Weeds is a source of aesthetic value. They are a host for beneficial insects, nectar for honeybees, stabilize the soil, because there is no other method through which we can stabilize the soil condition. This is a source of fuel, and there are many other functions as well. But coming to the, by focusing our topic, the weeds compete for resources, release certain natural substances as mentioned by Dr. Bajwa. The allelopathy decrease the crop yield, hosting pests, pathogens, and restricting air circulation around the crop, and contaminate the crop harvest, animal products, etc. If we consider the weeds as a resource, here in picture you can see on the left side corner, these are the monkeys that are totally dependent in our northern areas. They are totally dependent on the certain fruits and flowers that are produced by the wild plants, and many of them are weeds. On the left side, below in the corner, you can see these are the children that they sell the products of few medicinal plants on the roadsides during the summer season in the country, when many people go to the tourist sites. On the right upper corner, you can see that the homeless people, especially the Afghan refugees, they are homeless people. They don't have fields to cultivate the fodder crops. So they harvest the weeds from the maize fields and they are fed to the animals. The two pictures of the different flowers, you can see that many people collect these small flowers. You can see the white flowers. These are parthenium, as mentioned by Dr. Bajwa. These are the flowers of parthenium, the white one, small one. They sell in the market, and thus the flower buckets are sold in the market. And through this method, not only they earn the money, but on the other side, due to this selling the flowers in the market, they spread the different weed seeds in this way. Here you can see the grazing in Balochistan on the left side. These are the different drought-resistant weeds, which is the single source of feed for the sheep. On the right, you can see in the Swat Valley, these are major grass is cynodon, declina, and dactylan, and few other grass weeds or wild plants are present there. They are the only source to feed to their animals. Again, on the right side, the camels that are dependent on the certain weeds. On the left side, saline affected soil, the sheep and the cows are dependent on these wild plants and weeds. Now coming to the agricultural lands, here this is the picture of research farm in our university. Due to excessive rains in 2010, the Johnson grass Sorghum helipens dominated over the sugarcane. You can see that very limited number of sugarcane plants can be seen. 90% of the plants are of sorghum helipens. So we can say that the behavior of the weeds is changed due to the changing behavior of the climate. Again, here you can see this the wild umbrella shaped flowers. This is the species of Amyvis naga. This plant has been brought from other country for research purposes, and through certain ways, this plant escaped from the lab, and it has become a big problem in limited area of Peshawar Valley. You can see that the Amyvis naga is dominant over the sugarcane plants. The road encroachment by the Prosopis species and some other species, that almost 50 feet each side of the road has been invaded, covered by this invasive species. So not only it has reduced the width of the road, but on the other sides, when temperature comes to 0, then this plant totally become dry during the winter, and it can easily catch the fire. So due to which the whole highway is usually blocked sometimes because certain incidents occurred in the past. Again, you can see here the infestation of parthenium in a park because due to the negligence of or poor management of parks, the parthenium became dominant. Due to the poor management practices, the Cirsium arvens, Canada thistle, it is a creepy perennial, so it with the passage of time, it increased its population and ultimately became a big problem in wheat in Peshawar. Silybum aerianum, which is a useful medicinal plant, this is cultivated in many parts of our country, in many countries of the world as well. Probably the environmental condition of Peshawar are more favorable for the growth of this Silybum aerianum. That is why it has become a major weed in Peshawar Valley. And it can be found in the all winter crops, including persimmon and wheat and oats, etc., etc. But interestingly, this weed was not a big problem. But when in 2009 and 2010, there were more rains, low temperature, due to which this weed become dominant. They produce more number of seeds, they spread, and now still we are facing this big problem. Carthamus axicantha, this is a picture of the southern districts of KP, close to the Punjab, southern Punjab as well. You can see that thousands of acres is infested with the Carthamus axicantha seeds. The farmers harvest the grain or wheat from these fields and then live without any plowing or any weed control. So in this way, the Carthamus axicantha produce seeds, they spread, they are deposited into the soil, and next year they become a big problem. Here is, we can see, these are the two pictures of our campus. On the right, this is well managed. On the left, there is no management. So my aim of showing these pictures, last 4, 5, or 6 pictures, is that weeds is a problem due to shortcomings in the management practices. If we improve our management practices, then ultimately the weeds problem will be decreased or will be manageable. Again, you can see the management problem. If we already know that we have to cultivate a shallow rooted crop in which we have no choice of herbicides, then we should not plant those crops in that area, because you can see poor envy is a big problem. So if we already know about the history of the field and about the seed bank, then easily we can select the crops that can easily compete with these weeds. Solarization, we have conducted this experiment. This is the results of this experiment were very useful even for the small farmers, in which the soil is covered during the hot months of May and June. Usually during these months, there are very limited chances of rain. So due to which the air is dry, temperature is high. So if we cover the soil with transparent polyethylene sheet and cover the edges, if the atmospheric temperature is 50 degrees Celsius, that sometimes reach up to 50 Celsius, then below this plastic sheet, the temperature will be 60. That is 10 degrees Celsius higher. So in this way, due to high humidity and high temperature, the mitochondria of the seeds are destroyed, due to which the seeds that were present in the soil will be killed. So when we remove these sheets, plastic sheets, then in these areas we can at least grow the nursery plants, because there is no herbicide available that is registered and is recommended for the application in nurseries. There are certain principles of weed control. Those are prevention, eradication, control, and management. These are my personal suggestion that prevention is difficult in developing countries. Eradication is difficult for the developing countries and for the developed world as well. Control is possible and management is also possible. We control the weeds if weed has always resulted or caused a problem in any crop. But managements are before the problem occurrence. Regarding the weed management practices, I think one should analyze that the weed management practice or method is economically viable, is it environmentally sound, and is socially acceptable to their local communities as well. So all these three factors are again dependent on the economic status of the farmers, on the country and their economic status of the farmers as well. In the strategies, there are many strategies that are used by the different farmers depending on the size of the farms and the perception of the farmers as well, because there are many farmers, they don't consider the weeds as a problem. They say that if the weeds emerged in a crop, we will collect and we will feed to the animals. And so for many problems in our country, especially in northern areas like Chatral, Hindu Kush region, the farmers, many farmers consider weeds as a resource. Even they decrease the crop yield, but they consider that we don't have enough area to cultivate fodder crops, so we collect the weeds from wheat or maize or other crops and are fed to the animals. So in addition to crop, they also considered weeds as beneficial. Soil solarization, as I mentioned, that this is the best practice for nursery, but this is possible only in those countries, in those regions where the temperature reaches up to 40 degrees Celsius. Our irrigation system is unfortunately badly infested with different weeds, so that creates problems, and planting time, the crop genotype choice, the intercropping, fertilization, cultivation. In our Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the two methods, that is crop rotation and intercropping, are considered the best method of weed management. They have realized the benefits of crop rotation and the benefits and more monetary return from the intercropping. So that is why they usually accept few like wheat and maize. There are 2 or 3 crops in which intercropping is somewhat impossible, or they are unable to do that. In all other crops, intercropping is a common practice. But unfortunately, the cultural practices are failed due to the availability of herbicides. The farmers consider herbicide is the only choice, is the only solution to control the weeds. So that is why they are doing nothing, just to wait for the emergence of weeds and then apply herbicides. So this is my personal perception that the failure of many methods is the availability of herbicides in the market. Like we can see that indigenous knowledge about the different medicinal plants have been disappeared due to the presence of medicine, cheap medicine that are available in the market. The mechanical methods are in practice, are effective and are effective depending on the type of weed, the type of the crop, and the climatic condition of this area, like tillage, hoeing, hand weeding, digging, sickling, and mowing and burning. These are the methods that are common in our farming communities. Herbicides are used by the people, but unfortunately, in long run, the demerits of herbicides are more than their benefits. For example, dose is a major issue throughout the country. The 95% of the farmers use incorrect dose of the herbicides. The method of application of herbicide application, the time of application, the adulteration, the safety measures, the resistance that has been created as mentioned by Dr. Bajwa, and the non-target species are killed due to the application of herbicides. The only solution of the weed management is the crop rotation and improving the management practices. But as I earlier mentioned, that weeds become a problem due to the shortcomings in management practices. Thank you very much. We can discuss this in detail.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azim Khan. And now she must have time to invite our guest from Ludhiana.
Dr. Sir, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to introduce Professor Dr. Makhan Singh Bhular. He is from Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana, and he will talk about the herbicide use and the problem developed by the use of the herbicides, the herbicide resistance. So over to Dr. Makhan Singh.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my screen is visible?
Yes, it's visible.
So, good evening to everybody. So, first of all, I am thankful to the organizers for inviting me to deliver the talk and interact with the weed scientist from Pakistan. So I will be mainly talking on herbicide use, herbicide resistance, and my major area would be management of herbicide resistance in Phalaris minor. So that's a major issue. So before that, I will go through some that about herbicide use in India. So if we see the overall this pesticide consumption in Punjab and in India, there is on the increase. And if you see the Punjab state, the consumption of pesticide per capita consumption is higher if we compared with the India basis, because we can say that Punjab's agriculture is more chemical dependent. I will show why it's there in next slide. So here you can see pesticide consumption in India state-wise. So Andhra Pradesh, it counts for 24%, highest consumption of pesticide, followed by this Maharashtra, 13%, and Punjab is number 3. Area of Punjab is 2.5%, and its pesticide use is higher. So here, when we just talk about India, out of total pesticide use, the 16% are herbicide. But when we talk about Punjab, the 45%, the pesticide they use in Punjab are herbicide. So in India, main pesticide is insecticide, 60%, followed by fungicide, then herbicide. In Punjab, the 45% is herbicide and 45% is insecticide, and rest is the about 10% is the fungicide and some rodenticide. So this is a major difference if we compare with Punjab and India. And here, if we can see the major crops where herbicides are used. So wheat occupy almost, we can say, about this 44% of the total herbicide used in India is in wheat. Then is the rice, then 31%. Then soybean has come up as the third most important crop. In plantation crops, we have sugarcane. So wheat and rice are the major crop. And you know, in Punjab, rice wheat is the dominant cropping system. So that's why the Punjab has the highest, we can say, use of herbicides if we compare with the other states. So here, these are the important herbicides which are used in India. The butachlor is at number 1. If you see the consumption wise, in rice, we are using butachlor, we are using patellachlor, and we are using anilafos. And now we are also using this Visperivec sodium. This 2,4-D atrazine, it's mainly used in sugarcane, in maize also. And in case of this wheat crop, it's Caldina-Fob and Metribuzin. And isoproterenone, earlier isoproterenone was also used, but now its use has increased. And glyphosate is used in non-cropped area in most of the state, and it's used in cotton also as a directed application. But this glyphosate has been banned in 2-3 states. In Punjab, it has been banned, in Andhra Pradesh, and some more states because of its state policy. So these are the, we can say, 10 herbicides, which are the main herbicides we can see they are consumed in India. So here, when we talk about the main topic is herbicide resistance in wheat. So Phalaris minor is the main weed which has evolved resistance to most of the post-emergence herbicide. In Northwest India, for control of Phalaris minor, majority of the farmer, they depend on post-emergence herbicide. So first it was isoproterenone in early 90s that Phalaris evolved resistance. Then sulfosulfuron, then Caldina-Fob, and then meso plus idosulfuron, even now penoxidine also. So when we visit farmers' field in one or the other field, the Phalaris minor resistant to one herbicide, in some cases 2 herbicide, in some cases 3, 4. In some fields, we have seen no post-emergence herbicide is working. So that is our major issue. There are other weeds also, Rumax, Chenopodium, Avena, and Polypogon, that has shown resistance. But still, it's not an issue. We have good alternatives for management of these weeds. But Phalaris is a major issue in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, and Delhi. So my major, we can say, discussion will be what we are doing to manage this weed, to manage herbicide resistance. So this is emergence of herbicide resistance in Phalaris minor, and what are the challenge and what are interventions basically we have intervened. So here we are we are doing this pod study. We are collecting every season. We are collecting Phalaris minor seeds from farmer field and studying in our pod studies, and it shows that Phalaris minor has evolved multiple resistance. On the right side is we are doing a test in the lab. We are collaborating with Syngenta. They have developed a test. We are collecting Phalaris minor from farmer field when it's at this 2-leaf stage. We are growing in the lab. After 1 week, we are able to see whether the Phalaris minor is resistant to one herbicide or susceptible. So before the time farmer is to apply the herbicide, we are able to tell the farmer that your biotype is susceptible to this herbicide and resistant to this herbicide. So in this way, we are guiding the farmer that don't use this herbicide, you can use 1, 2, or other herbicide. So here you can see this risk test. On left side, we have untreated. On the right side, we have resistant biotype. In a resistant biotype, the roots will develop within 1 week. In susceptible biotype, there will be no root development. So after 1 week, we can tell the farmer that here your Phalaris minor is susceptible to sulfosulfuron. We are doing for sulfosulfuron, we are doing for Caldina Bob, we are doing for pinoxidine. And this year we are planning to start with this mesoplus and this metribuzin also. So it's helping us to give this timely advice to the farmers. And now other intervention, because post-emergence herbicide was the major option, and which we have lost in many fields. So we are depending on many little hammers, we can say, many interventions. The first one is early sowing. So this is one of, as an earlier lecture, we are saying weed ecology. So we know the Phalaris minor, if the temperature is more than 20 degrees, here in end October to early November, the temperature is more than 20 degrees. If we sow the crop in end November, in end October, we will get very less infestation of Phalaris minor. So by early sowing of this weed, we escape from the first flush of Phalaris minor. The first flush of Phalaris minor is most dangerous. It results in a higher yield losses. So just by early sowing, we can escape the first flush, and then our wheat emerge in a weed-free environment. And then after this, we are comfortable to manage the weeds. And if we can combine this early sowing with the dust mulch, our elder used to adopt these practices. Before sowing, we delay the sowing of this wheat. Suppose sometime when there is rainfall, so farmer prepare the field. We ask the farmer to wait for 4 or 5 days. So let the Phalaris minor emerge. Then the Phalaris minor, the first flush will emerge, and then farmer will go for a light cultivation and planking, then allow the upper half centimeter of the soil to dry. And you can see the farmer here sowing the wheat, upper soil surface is dry, and you can see the seed. The Phalaris minor will germinate only when there is a irrigation or rainfall. So in this way, our wheat crop will germinate in a weed-free environment and will escape from the first flush of Phalaris minor. And we give the irrigation at 21, 22 days, then apply first dose of urea, and then wheat grow in a very vigorous way, and its competitiveness is also increased. So early sowing plus dust mulching, showing us very good results. So farmers are aware of it, and you can see the farmer are adopting it. And here is mechanical weeding. This was an issue because the wheat is sown 6 inches to 8 inches. So it was very difficult. But now we are collaborating with the farm engineer. So this is the wheat you can see is it's a mechanical weeding. We have developed this protocols of mechanical weeders. So in this way, we are now intervening the mechanical weeding also, which is helping us for controlling the weeds in inter-row spaces. So this is another intervention, very new intervention. Even farmer have started. Earlier, farmer were just reluctant, but now they have started adopting this this mechanical weeding. So now, we are asking the farmer to shift from post to because to pre-emergence herbicide. What here, there are 4 things very important. They are timing of application is very important, and sufficient soil moisture is required, and uniform coverage and field condition free from clouds and good soil moisture. Timing is, we say, apply immediately or within the same day. We say the farmer, you sow the crop, and before moving out of the field, you spray the herbicide. And if these 4 conditions are met, we are getting very good results. And we have 3 herbicides. One is pendimethalin, and we have a new herbicide, this pendimethalin plus metribuzin. There is another. Here you can see here a seed bed. Now, because another thing is, earlier farmer used to burn the straw, and some weed seed were burned with the straw, but now the burning is banned in India. So this is the wheat field as prepared by farmer incorporating the straw. Even straw, 7 to 8 ton straw, it's incorporated. Seedbed is very fine, and in this seedbed, so pre-emergence herbicide will work very good. So it's possible, even if we are incorporating the straw, in removing the straw, no problem. But even the farmer who are good manager, as earlier our presenter were telling management, the farmer who are good manager, even after incorporating the straw, they are able to prepare a very fine seed bed. There we can use this pre-emergence herbicide. Here you can see another herbicide is pyroxasulfone. This is a new intervention. This farmer's field were heavily infested, more than 500 flowers minor per square meter. No post-emergence herbicide was working. Left side, no herbicide. Here we have used this pyroxasulfone. And this herbicide we introduced last year, and this is working very well. And farmer, and we are demonstrating this herbicide on a large scale in collaboration with this private sector. And farmers are, last year farmer has got very good results, and they are very happy. Even this is costly. It costs around 2 rupees to 1,000 per acre. What farmers are willing to pay if they are of surety, because they are so much, you can say, disturbed from this flowers minor. Another thing is important is sometimes we have very good chemical, everything is there. When it reaches to the farmer field, there is a gap in the spray technology. Even while spending good, every quality is good, but at the farmer field, spray technology is another aspect where we are giving more importance. We have conducted large scale demonstration with the farmer to show them the importance of this spray technology if you have to get the best efficacy from a herbicide. So this is the conventional method. This is cone type nozzle. This nozzle is not suitable for herbicide spray. We say flat fan or flood jet. Or this method, this gun sprayer, this is very dangerous. Either no weed control or crop toxicity. So we are preventing the farmer that don't go for these methods. And here you can see in post-emergence, they are using this type of cone type of nozzle. There is more loss of the herbicide, poor weed control, and there is environment health hazard also. So this is the farmer. You can see that we are collaborating with the farmer. We are working more with the farmers. So this is the spray technology, uniform application using flat fan nozzle. So this is, and farmer have started adopting this. This is the farmer from the Bathinda district. You can see uniform application is going on. Sprayer So everything. So this we are working very closely with the farmers, and we are quite successful in that. And here another, we are working with the 2, 3, this private sector, and these we have some projects. So this is we are spraying. Either we say go for this, or you work on this custom hiring basis. These sprayers are available within 100 to 150 this per acre. They come to you, they spray your herbicide. So within 1 hour, 5, 6 acre is sprayed. You can see very uniform application. So this is these type of sprayers now they are very common. Even local manufacturers have started manufacturing these sprayers. Earlier, these are not available. So we conduct a large scale demonstration, and farmers become aware, and now they are getting high efficacy. So that's why they are diverted to this spray technology. So here, even in post-emergence application, so these type of sprayers are available now, even in a wheat. Even I was talking about this mechanical weeding. We are putting these type of tires in mechanical weeder. So even in standing crop, we can go for mechanical weeding. Even in standing crop, we can spray. So spray technology, our more stress is on spray technology. And here we have seen that we have got more than 10% weed control, and even we are higher grain yield. And awareness of the farmers have increased. That is more important. Creating awareness among farmers, that is we are stressing more on. So here you can see it's farmer fair in Ludhiana. Every year we are conducting farmers fair. So you can see the 2 nozzle, 3 nozzle. The farmer have become aware for multiple nozzles, and they are fitted with a flat fan nozzle. So now farmers are becoming aware, and they're getting better efficacy from herbicide just by changing the spray technology. So this is very important. So here another intervention is the Punjab Agriculture University. We agronomist, we collaborated with a farmer engineer. We developed a lucky seed drill. Sowing and application of the herbicide are done at the same time. This machine was very popular during the last season in direct seeding of rice. So we are getting timely spray, uniform spray, and there is labor saving. And here you can see how this machine is working. This now many farmers have bought this herbicide. We conduct a large scale demonstration. We can go for wheat, we can go for rice, we can go for any crop, just change the plate. So at the same time, you can see the herbicide is a very moist herbicide. We are putting in a moist field. You can see. And when we are putting any pre-emergence herbicide in a moist soil, we get the best efficacy. And there is a fraction of second this difference between sowing and spray of herbicide. So this machine has become very, you can say, popular among the farmers. So one thing I will say is that weed scientist alone cannot do. We need very close collaboration with the farm engineer. This machine we have developed with a farmer engineer, and now local manufacturers are doing this. So this is another intervention. We have done this. So these type of sprayers you can see on one side, this is direct seeded rice. It's happening in wheat also. It's farmer field in Bathinda district. Sowing of rice is going on, and alongside spray is going on. This is what we are saying to the farmer, that there should be minimum gap between sowing and spray of pre-emergence herbicide. If you have to get the best efficacy, minimum gap. If we delay the efficacy, delay the spray to next day, you may get lower efficacy. And farmers are now becoming aware of it. So we are also working with the private sector. This drone, we had one project with the private sector, and we got very good results here. Unsprayed here, we sprayed with a drone. We got excellent results. Just you can see 30 liter water we used in 1 hectare field. With hand spray, we used 500 liter. Just with 30 liter, we got the similar result as we got with. So this is another, but still the drones are not allowed by the government. But we are generating the data. So whenever the government allows, this is another, we can say, good technology that we can use at a low volume of water. We can go for a uniform application. So here another thing is we have developed, I told you that sometimes it happens when farmer we're sowing the wheat and low temperature set in early. And sometimes there is a rainfall. We post-emergence herbicide or sprayer after first irrigation when the crop is around 1 month old. But we have seen that sulfur-sulfurone herbicide, it can be sprayed even after 14 to 21 days. So we say to the farmer that if there is a rainfall after sowing and before first irrigation and or there is a low temperature and your weeds are 2 leaf stage before first irrigation, instead of applying irrigation, then waiting for feed to come in butter, spray sulfur-sulfurone 2 days before first irrigation, then apply the irrigation. They are getting a very good result. This farmer has used sulfur-sulfurone 2 days before first irrigation. He's from this Barnala area and got excellent results. So change in spray timing also of the post-emergence herbicide, because if we delay the spray to after first irrigation, the weeds will become 5-6 leaf stage and it will not be easy to control. So this is another intervention we have introduced and it's showing us good results at the farmer field. And here is herbicide, this tank mixtures. So pendimethalin is a very good herbicide and pyroxasulfone is a very good herbicide. But when there is a heavy soil, sometimes soils are heavy, we have seen that if we are mix the herbicide, pendimethalin plus pyroxasulfone, we are getting better results. In case of heavy soil, we got very good results. So this is another option that we are testing to help the farmers for management of this flares minor. Here is in case of post-emergence herbicide, as you see, flares had developed resistance to this pinoxidine. But if we are mixing, tank mixing pinoxidine plus metribuzin, we are getting very good control, this flares minor. And many herbicides which are working well now, post-emergence herbicide, they have metribuzin, either caldinafol plus metribuzin, either phenoxapro plus metribuzin, or pinoxidine plus. So metribuzin is one of the, we can say, chemical that is helping the farmer now, but it's being misused in many. Farmers use very high dose, then there is phyto, because metribuzin is a very tricky herbicide. If you use high dose, or if there is a rainfall, or is a heavy irrigation, it's phytotoxic to wheat also. But in very low doses of 50 to 100 gram per acre, it's showing very good results. You can see the clean field is there. So metribuzin in combination with the post-emergence herbicide as a tank mixture or as a ready mix, it's giving quite comfortable results to the farmers. So here is another thing is because we say to the farmer that just after harvest of rice, so directly sow wheat with happy seeder in the standing stall. And many times there is no need for application of any herbicide. This is, we can say, zero herbicide. So this is one of the best way to manage the flares minor or any other weed. Just sow with happy seeder. So this is, you can say, happy seeder. Mulch layer is created and these are a seed rows. Wheat will come up and we get the excellent control. So you can see the wheat field. It's a free from weed, reduced weed pressure. Sometimes it's a zero herbicide, but in some cases we need herbicide. So we have recommended that sow with happy seeder plus apply need-based post-emergence herbicide. But in many cases, the situation like this, no need for any herbicide. This is also working excellently. So we have recommended to the farmer integrated weed management, happy seeder plus need-based herbicide plus weed seed harvest. We say to the farmer, whatever the weeds are escaped, just harvest them before they produce the seed. And we are working in collaboration with the farm engineer just to weeds, because we don't allow, say the farmer, don't allow any flares minor to produce the seed, so that in next year you are comfortable. Another is intervention in early post-emergence. We are looking for just timing of application of herbicide. This is in testing stage, how it would be helpful. So this is weed seed harvest. You can see the flares minor seed. Just we have seen that we can harvest the clip, the panicle of this flares minor, so that next year the weed seed bank will be reduced. So next year there will be lesser infestation of the flowers minor, but it's possible in flowers minor, not in Avena. So in flowers minor, it's possible because height is 1 inch or 2 inches above the wheat, this spikes. So here you can see the wheat seed harvest before, it's after. It's quite possible to reduce the wheat seed bank just by mechanical intervention, just by wheat seed harvest. And we are developing more comfortable wheat seed harvester with this farm engineer in collaboration with the farm engineer. So as the earlier speaker told, the long-term management lies in depleting wheat seed bank, and the best is the crop rotation. One, the most important, if we can adopt the crop rotation, no weed become dominant. The problem with weeds is only when one weed become dominant. Otherwise, weeds are required for biodiversity. So when we are rotating the crops, no weed become dominant. It's quite comfortable. And if we can prevent the seed set, we can manage the weeds in a very comfortable way. So this is literature also. We are every year we are distributing among the farmer. And now herbicide resistance, this is my last slide, I think. So we say to the farmer that how to manage the flowers minor. So before deciding herbicide, look at the herbicide history of the field. You see which herbicide have not given good result during the last year. Don't spray these herbicides. So this is one thing. So, but the problem is around 30% area in the state is on rent. This year, one farmer is cultivating, next year another farmer is cultivating. So many times farmers are not aware of which herbicide have worked well or not. So, but where it's possible, so herbicide history, we say to the farmer, is very important. Before deciding the herbicide, before going to the shop, just write the herbicide history that these herbicides have not worked on our field. Don't go for these herbicide. And a rotation of the herbicide, rotation is mode of action, is very important. And we tell the farmer that resistance is site specific. If you have 20-acre field, it may be that for every acre you need a different herbicide. We cannot say that for 20 acre you spray Caldinafop. Maybe for 2 acres you need Caldinafop. For another 3 acres you need Panoxidine. For third you need Midopalasido. So this is very important. And where there is multiple herbicide resistance, we say to the farmer, go for non-chemical practices that I told earlier. Multiple herbicide resistance, don't rely only on the herbicide, go for integrated weed management. And the best way is to reduce the weed seed bank either by crop rotation or weed seed harvest, or if our biotechnologists can tell us how to make the seeds sterile. Thank you, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, excellent presentations. We have learned about ecology, management, rotation, herbicide options, and the seed bank. All three of our speakers have talked about. The next two speakers will speak about precision weed management. Our first speaker will be Travis from University of Dalhousie, and then Itazaz from University of Prince Edward Island, both from Canada. And I now welcome Travis to take over the stage. Chima-sab, so with your permission, I'm inviting Travis.
Yes. No doubt.
Thank you, Dr. Agrakhan, and the chair, as well as the organizers of today's webinar. All right. All right, everybody can hear me okay and see my presentation clearly?
Yes, we can hear you and see you as well.
Perfect. All right, so today I'm going to give a presentation and introduce some machine vision work in relation to smart applicators to target weeds and reduce herbicide input. So my name's Dr. Travis Esau. I'm an assistant professor at Dalhousie University, which is located in Nova Scotia in Canada. And so I'm going to give basically a overview of some of the research that's been done over the years. I've worked very closely with Vice Chancellor Zaman, as well as Dr. Adazaz Farouk, who's going to be speaking shortly. So we'll go through my slides. Hopefully I won't be over my time limit. I've got a few interesting videos to show, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. So this is a slide that I commonly start my presentations with. So what we have here is, for those that have not noticed the wild blueberry cropping system before, this is a picture showing the variability that's present in the wild blueberry cropping system. So on the bottom part of the image, we have the wild blueberry plants growing. And in the back portion of the slide, you can see more of the vegetation of the wild blueberries. Wild blueberries are a naturally grown crop. They're unique in terms of how they cannot be planted by seeds. So they spread naturally by rhizomes, and it takes a long time for fields to populate uniformly. So that being said, several commercial fields have a lot of variability, and the variability comes in a variety of fashion. There's soil and crop variability, grasses and weeds. As everybody knows, with any agricultural crop, there's a lot of variability in the locations and the varieties of grasses and weeds that are spread across the field. As well, which is more unique to the wild blueberry cropping system, is the bare spots. So I'm referring to a bare spot as any location in the field where there's not a wild blueberry plant growing. And so these could be randomly spread across the field. And what we need to do is look at all this variability and understand how we can do a better job managing it. Because right now, commercial applicators, for the most part, are set up to apply uniform rates of herbicide to be able to manage these crops. And the limitations with applying uniformly is that it's going to cost the farmer additional amounts of money, basically waste the money, because the herbicide only needs to be applied to where the target is in the field. And so site-specific technology, if used properly, is able to reduce the amount of agrochemical that's used. If you're reducing the amount of input, you're going to be able to help increase your farm profitability. And at the same time, it's better for the environment. If you're not wasting chemical in areas that don't need the application, then it's better for the environment. So there's a lot of benefits to using spot application technology. So now I'm going to go into some of the evolution of spot applicators that we've been researching over the last few years. So this is where I want to start the evolution from. And this was one of the first spot-specific applicators that was developed for managing wild blueberry fields. And so this was back in 2008. And what was unique about this applicator is that it used a prescription map to be able to turn on and off the nozzles depending on where the targets were in the field. So there was a few different ways that the prescription map could be developed. The first method was using a handheld GPS and going in the field, and before the application was applied, mapping the locations that needed the certain herbicide applied. So map your weed patches. The other option was to use a satellite image or aerial photography, and then develop a prescription map from that type of side. The problem with this is back in 2008, the GPS that was used on this applicator wasn't perfectly accurate, right? It was within a few meters, but if this weed patch was smaller, it was going to completely miss the target location. So the options were either to increase the GPS accuracy, which would cost a lot of money, or think about an alternative way to be able to target in the field. And so one way is using, instead of prescription map applications, you could use a real-time applicating system. Another limitation of this prescription map technology is that it is more labor intensive than some more newer methods of applying herbicide. And I say labor intensive because prior to your application, this system is required to develop a map that you have to walk around your weed areas. So that's added labor that's going into this, as well as the satellite imagery or the aerial imagery is going to be another time-consuming process to develop your prescription map. So looking at some real-time options, we started with the development of some sensors that would target tall weeds. So there's several tall weeds in the wild blueberry cropping system that could be detected with a various assortment of sensors. So we started with some ultrasonic sensors, as well as infrared transmitter and receiver sensing technology, which would basically help to detect any tall weeds that were growing above the blueberry canopy. And so we did some preliminary testing, found some ultrasonic sensors that did a great job when mounted vertically, and they were able to detect weeds that were growing at a certain height. And depending on how it was calibrated, you could use it for a variety of different cropping systems. So this one's showing the on-off of the nozzles based on where the tall grasses were growing in these specific rows. And it's obviously going to allow you to save input costs by targeting just the locations in your field that those tall weeds were growing. So of course, that works for some cropping systems and some applications for taller weeds, but there's a variety of weed species that are not tall enough to sense using ultrasonic sensors. So we needed to think about options that were able to expand our capabilities for weed detection. And one of those options that we started looking into was using RGB cameras, so color cameras that were able to replace the ultrasonic sensors to be able to have machine vision that is looking at the visual representation of what's in front of the nozzle. And then based on image processing, we're able to develop algorithms that were able to detect some of those target species and then make that decision in a very short period of time to allow for a real-time application. So our first generation of real-time camera image processing required a front boom, which is where the cameras were. You can see out in front of this applicator. And then on the rear boom is where the solenoid valves and spray nozzles are. So the system was able to detect out in front of the vehicle and then send that image to a computer, onboard computer. The computer would process that image, each image from each camera. And then if it detected that there was a target in that image, it would send a corresponding power signal to the solenoid valve that lined up with the image that detected a target. And then it would open the nozzle and spray. So that being said, this is a video showing how this system was able to target the plants or the foliage that was growing in this particular field, and then shut the nozzles off in the lighter colored bare soil areas where the application wasn't required. Moving further, we wanted to upscale the technology with very good success with our ATV sprayer. We upscaled it to a commercial sized applicator that was able to feature the cameras instead of on the front boom, on the rear boom. And we're able to do this because the technology in the computing capabilities is getting faster every year. And that being said, it allows us to mount the cameras very close to the solenoid valves and still have enough computing power to be able to process the image fast enough to turn the nozzle on with only about 15 centimeter buffer between the camera lens and the output spray nozzle. So the main components required to develop this spot applicator or retrofit a commercial uniform boom sprayer, the main components are, of course, the machine vision camera, RGB cameras. That's interfaced by USB cables to active link USB cables to a computer, onboard computer. And that was able to be connected through a touchscreen monitor. So you could monitor the system while you're traveling through the field via the touchscreen monitor and make adjustments as required. And then of course that monitor and computer was able to be outputting data through a custom developed controller, which was basically allowing the solenoid valves, sending 12-volt power to the solenoid valves to be able to open or leave the nozzles off depending on where the targets were in the field. So those are the main components. And the benefit of the technology that we developed through this research is that it's a retrofit to the commercial system. So it didn't require a whole bunch of added costs and a brand new sprayer. It was able to be added and retrofitted to a commercial system. And that at the end of the day saves the farmer a lot of money. So this is another video showing how the developed system was able to use camera vision to be able to detect those weed and grass species growing in that particular field and turn on the nozzles accordingly. This is another video showing exactly the same technology. So it's detecting this time moss species that are growing in the field. And so moss in this particular field, the farmer was trying to make the decision, do I apply a uniform rate of herbicide, in this case Chateau, to target about 15% of the moss species that's growing in that field? And they had to make that decision. Does it make sense to apply uniformly across that field to only cover 15% of the target, or 15% of the moss that was growing in that field? Or do they wait till the next year when there's more moss and it's going to be a little bit more Chateau actually applied to the target areas? With this technology, the farmer was able to actually reduce the costs, but still apply the chemical to the right locations and target that moss. And so it was a win-win, and the farmer was very happy with the results from this study. More recently, we've been looking at fine-tuning some of these machine vision algorithms to better detect specific weed and grass species in the field. So rather than just targeting any grasses that the machine vision system sees, we want to drill down and actually detect just specific weed species or grass species. And one of the most troublesome weeds in the wild blueberry cropping system right now is the fescue grass, and it's very expensive to actually eradicate out of your field. And as it's been mentioned multiple times this evening as well, some of the herbicides have become some of the weeds have become resistant to overused herbicides. So curb is really the industry standard for reducing the fescue infestations in the fields right now. It's expensive, $180 per acre approximately, but growers are looking for alternative methods to be able to eradicate this very troublesome weed. And Caseron is a granular herbicide which has shown very good potential for getting rid of fescue, but the problem is it's very, very expensive. So at $500 per acre, it's not economically feasible for growers to actually go out and apply this because it's so expensive. So with our machine vision technology, we're looking at being able to develop a system that will specifically target fescue and then apply spot specifically to make sure we're not wasting the chemical so that it can be affordable for the growers to use. So that being said, this is a video showing in real time the image processing system able to detect just the fescue species. So there's a variety of different weed species and grasses in this video, but the machine vision is detecting just the fescue. So when this machine vision system detects the fescue, it's going to send a signal to the applicator to actually turn on the nozzle and either spray a herbicide, or if it's a granular application, it would be opening a diverting valve and applying a granular herbicide to target that weed. So this system is using deep learning as the thinking process behind how this detection system is working. As far as the accuracy goes, we've collected all kinds of data to be able to do a good job training our artificial neural network. And we found very good success with high target rates of fescue grasses, almost 97% target accuracy, which is very promising for commercial application. As far as the granular application goes, of course, you'll hit a roadblock if you try and go to the, if you try to purchase an applicator for granular that is going to work individually. I have not been able to find anything that does more than turn on a left or right boom section individually. So what we're trying to do is target specific sections in the field on a very small scale. So to do that, we needed to break the boom into multiple boom sections so that we could have the most effectiveness of the application input, or the herbicide in this case. So this is a custom developed herbicide applicator that's using pneumatics to be able to put granular herbicide, in this case we're going to be using Casseron, out different boom sections based on the image processing video that I just showed you. So with this type of technology, it's beneficial for a variety of reasons. The liquid applicators that most people are using are great for applying chemical during the summer months and even early into the fall. Some of these fescue grasses are required to be targeted late in the season, and they run the risk of applying when it's below zero. And if it's a liquid, of course, it's going to freeze your nozzles and cause a problem. But with this granular applicator, it's not going to freeze nozzles. It's a granular application. It uses air to be able to push the granulars out the nozzles. So it's able to widen the window of application, and also allow growers to keep this applicator outside without the requirement of putting glycol in the lines to keep the liquid applicator from freezing and cracking the pump. Just wanted to also show this slide. This is a different type of spot applicator developed in the research program here at the Housie to target the different size trees. So if you're trying to target, apply a specific agrochemical, you could use this sort of technology, and it could be custom developed for a variety of different cropping systems. I'll finish up with just a sort of a overview of a software that I developed to be able to help farmers on a free basis. I developed this and promoted this to the farmers for free, so they can look at all of their input costs, whether it's a herbicide, a fungicide, or an insecticide, and see actually how much it's costing them over the production cycle of the wild blueberry. And what it was able to do is it was able to take some basic information and then give them some very valuable insights about their operation. And they can use this software to be able to better understand where their inputs are going and their costs, so that they can potentially, going into the next season, do a better job of properly managing that particular wild blueberry crop, so that they're not wasting added chemicals or potentially inputs that aren't required. And as I mentioned, I posted it online for the growers to be able to use for free, so anybody can download this from the Wild Blueberry Producers website. That being said, lots of industry partners and other universities that have played a role in the valuable research that we've been working on. And I thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Very up to the point. They talk about precision in herbicide application. To extend the discussion started by Travis, now we hear from Etazaz, basically the same philosophy, but a different design and different crop. Itazaz, over to you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks for the invite to speak at this valuable webinar.
I just said your name, no introduction actually.
Just so today I'm going to give a talk on the herbicide application for potato cropping system, and the concept is similar what Travis mentioned. And Travis and I are working collaboratively on various projects. And this is the sprayer or prototype we developed for the potato cropping system. A bit about me. My name is Atazaz Farouk, and I'm an associate professor at the School of Sustainable Design Engineering at the University of Prince Edward Island. And also I'm an industry researcher in precision agriculture. So why there is a need for a sprayer for the potatoes? PEI is the smallest province of Canada, and it produces about 30% of Canadian potatoes. So it is a potato country for Canada. And for the potato production, we use agrochemicals, typically uniform, without considering the weed and disease distribution, which is not always uniform. So, and uniform application poses the threat on the growers because it increases the cost of production, and also it has environmental issues with the runoff and leaching. So, being said that, so there is a need that if we can have a sprayer which is smart enough to differentiate between weed and disease and apply the herbicide only on the weeds and fungicide only on the disease plants, so there is a significant potential we can cut the cost down. At the same time, we can protect the environment. So this is a project for one of my grad students who recently graduated. And we use the very advanced technique, which is available today using the deep learning and artificial intelligence. So what we did, so we developed and utilized the convolutional neural networks to differentiate between weed, disease, and healthy plants. And then not only we developed those techniques, but also we deployed those techniques to develop a sprayer, and we tested that at a small scale in the lab. And then thirdly, we also evaluated that sprayer for spot application of herbicide in the potato fields. So how it worked, so we collected images under various weather conditions, early morning, late afternoon, noon time, and all kind of fluctuations, cloudy, partially cloudy, sunny. So all kind of weather conditions we consider when we take the image acquisition. So those images were classified using the classification and detection models to differentiate between weed and disease. And then after we were sure that we are accurate enough, then next step was to deploy those models, bring them into the reality, develop a sprayer, and evaluate that in the lab in the field. So as I said, so we collected the images. So from Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick, we had about 41,000 images under different conditions and different combinations, healthy plants, disease, weed, bare land, weed and disease combination, all kind of combinations possible, so that our models, which are utilizing the deep learning and AI, they are accurate and smart enough to differentiate what they're dealing with, and we can control the nozzle on individual basis. And also we collected images and videos on the go to process that. So these, and during the different growth stages of potatoes, so we classified into different classes from class 1 to 4. So when the plants were just emerging and the weeds were just emerging, then the plant's grown a bit, we call that, and those classifications we did based on the days after the planting. And here are the weeds which are taking the pace, and then the plants are more in the third growth stage and weeds are expanding, and this is how the weeds are looking at the next stage. And then also we did the resizing and labeling, where we wanted to differentiate and build the model. On the right hand side, so those the tiny little boxes are rectangles, so they are picking up the weed, and those are classified. Rectangles are created. On the left hand side, so those are the diseased plants, so those are we developed those and resize them and label them so that our model can pick it on and differentiate between what is what. And then for the training data set, when we have the images collected, we label them. So we had the training, we had the validation, we had the testing data set, and we use the PyTorch and DarkNet with the different neural networks to classify and detect what is what. Since the audience for the webinar is quite diverse, I'm not going to get into those model details, how it works, but the simplistic way is that these are AI and deep learning models which work like a human brain. So they store the logic and they make those decisions. So once those models were developed, so next step was to compare the accuracy, that how accurate they are. So in all the cases in different classes, we were able to attain more than 90% of the accuracy. And this is done in the lab so that we are sure that what we are dealing with, we are accurate, and we are not doing something which is not going to do the job at the end of the day. And here is the accuracy comparison for those models. So we use different models. So for the YOLO V3 tiny model, so that was giving us the highest accuracy in the weed detection, and disease detection was about 84% accuracy, and we did included more images and more combination of images to improve that accuracy. And also, not only that, when you're detecting and you're accurate in detecting, so the next step is that, are you fast enough to send the signal to the controller, and it is a it is fast enough to open the nozzle. So we did the inference time calculations, that how long it takes for the images to process. So for the efficient net, we found that it was 52 frames per second. So it deals with the 52 frames in a second. And also we did calculate the delay time, which was 39 milliseconds. So it takes 39 milliseconds from the image acquisition to the discharge of the nozzle, so that there is a very little time delay. And here are the processed images. So as we go on, so it picks up those lamb's quarter, which is a common weed in the potato production in Atlantic Canada and the northeastern North America. So as soon as it deals with that weed, so it create a rectangle box and send a signal to the controller that here is the target. And now this is another image which is processed, so it picks up those diseases. And another sample for another weed, which was a corn spurry. So it's more like a grass type of weed, and it also competes with the potato plants and compete for the nutrients and affects the productivity. So this is an example from the disease, which is early blight, when the plants start dying, and we were able to detect that as well. So here is the video where on the go, as soon as it detects any lamb's quarter weeds, so it creates the rectangle box as shown by Travis too, that for the fescue grasses. So on the go, as it detects the weed, so it creates the rectangle box and send the signal to the controller. So this is another experiment in the field, in the lab we did. So we mounted the same cameras, we spread different targets in the parking lot, and our convolutional neural networks and the deployed model were accurate enough to pick 100% of the weeds in the lab testing. So now once we tested that we can do it and it is accurate. So next step was to develop the sprayer. So we developed our own custom sprayer because we couldn't use the ATV because of the low clearance with the potato ridges. So it's going to strike the ridges. So that's why we designed our own buggy and all the system at our own to develop this sprayer. So this is a schematic diagram for the sprayer. Obviously, it has the machine vision. It has cameras, which are mounted 6 inches ahead of the boom. It takes images and videos and differentiate the targets and open the nozzles where the target has been detected. And some images during the deployment and calibration of the sprayer. So this is the first lab testing we did for weed detection. So we spread the potato plants and the weed plants. So it will miss the potato plant, which is here and here. So this is a disease. It's going to pick up. And this is also a weed. So it's going to pick up. And this is weed. So this test gave us an idea that yes, this is a technology where we can differentiate between plant and weed and apply agrochemical or herbicide based on the need. So I hosted a conference last year, a regional conference on precision ag, where we demonstrated this sprayer up to about 200 parties from the Atlantic region. And again, this was a test that was done in a parking lot because in Canada, because we don't have a year-round agriculture. So we need to find a time that when we can do the agriculture, and those are literally 4 to 5 months. So that's why some of the testing we are depending upon in the parking lot and simulated conditions, but we did tested this sprayer in the actual field. So for the agrochemical savings, so we were able to save about 41 to 43% in terms of the herbicide and about 47 to 49% of the fungicide in the lab simulated environments. And not only that, so we did spread the water sensitive papers to examine the targets, that whether our targets were detected or not. We calculated the percent area coverage and there was none significant difference between variable rate and uniform. So indicating that whether you pick our smart sprayer or go with the traditional application, you're gonna get the same coverage and it's gonna be the similar efficacy with non-significant differences. And then the next step was to go in the field and actually test that sprayer. And we tested that at a Harrington Research Station, which is Agriculture Agri-Food Canada, a federal government organization. And we had the test tracks and we were able to save more than 45% or more than 50% of the herbicide in those test tracks. And we tested different conditions. On top of that, again, since we are researchers and we need to show the evidence that how we compare with the traditional application, so the percent area coverage and the target detection indicated that there were non-significant differences between the variable rate and uniform. This is the video actually in this August, and you can see all the nozzles are off because it's not encountering any weeds at the moment. As soon as it will hit the weed patch and it will start spraying, and we mounted the water sensitive papers on different targets so that we can actually, so now it is in the weed and it is started spraying right on the weed. So since potatoes are universal, so they are all over the place, not only in Atlantic Canada or PEI. So this technology is adoptable and we are trying to now put it on a commercial sprayer, this technology, so that we can help the industry and help the environment. So we found that we were able to save 40 to 43% of during the lab testing in terms of agrochemicals, and we were able to save about 50% of the chemical in the field testing. I would like to acknowledge the funding agencies and the collaborators, Dalhousie, University of Florida. And I just want to mention at the end that I am a graduate of University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, and I did my master's and PhD with Dr. Qamar Zaman, and I learned these techniques under his supervision. At the end, I would like to thank you all for the listening, and I can take any questions you have.
Wonderful, Itzaz. You are a true son of soil. We are proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I ask Chima Saab to lead the discussion, I would like to announce that in next 2 weeks, we will organize 3 important debates. 2 of them on seed, 1 each on vegetable crops and edible oilseed crops, and 1 on soil organic matter on the 10th of November, where we will feature this year's World Food Prize recipient, Professor Ratan Lal. The 2 seed debates shall be organized in collaboration with Chinese Academy of Agriculture Sciences in Beijing. For our 5 speakers who have just concluded their talks, excellent talks, I would ask them, or request them actually, that at the end of every event, we put together a brief and we make that available through social media and on the websites. I would request you all 5 to please provide us an abstract and any slide or data table that you wish to be shared on the website for future readers. Now, Chima Saab, do we have Buttar Saab with us, DG Extension, to be the first discussion?
I think he is here.
जी Buttar Saab, आप Buttar Saab के बाद Chima Saab जिस
You
कुछ
will
आया
talk on about a little bit about parthenium and overall the weed problem in Punjab.
जी ठीक है Buttar Saab.
Thank you, sir. This is a very good presentation. We have specifically heard about Mr. Makkan Singh Buller, and his presentation was mainly focusing on the Punjab agriculture, specifically with the wheat. And weedicide or weeds are a big challenge to us because we are facing the herbicide resistance, and we are thinking about the new chemistries, and we are planning about and working on the weedicide timings and machinery, and I think this is really a good intervention. And I have specifically learned a lot. Weedicide and weeds, if see in Pakistani perspective, is basically increasing every year. We have the same problem of Phalaris minor and the Vietnam fatua and the major broadly weedicides. Our businesses in pesticide in Pakistan is more than 100 billion rupees, and specifically in herbicide sector is increasing. But the farmers' dissatisfaction is also increasing. And that's why the integrated weed management proposed by Mr. Buller is specifically holds good in our conditions. And this is specifically, I acknowledge Dr. Ikrar Khan and Dr. Chima for making us see a very good presentation, specifically at the eve of the Rabi season. We have the similar problems, and in addition to this, as Chima Saab said, the parthenium is a big problem for us. No doubt, parthenium we have inherited through the Chenab rivers first, and then roadside and then abundant areas has now been encroached into the major cropped areas. And parthenium is no doubt an invasive, but has eliminated most of our local weeds. In our ecological areas, starting from even to the Balochistan, we have seen a big encroachment of parthenium, and specifically from the semi-arid areas and arid areas, and then to the Potwar and the northern regions up to the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I have seen high onto the agriculture. I think if we say that among the weeds and among the biggest problems of agriculture in Pakistan, the parthenium can be graded as one of the most important problems in Pakistan. We are dealing with this earlier. Madam Rukhsana Bajwa was the inventor of this scheme, and she has created the Parthenium Awareness Program from the Punjab University, and then the extension agents or extension service has taken this campaign, and we have tried to create maximum awareness. We have trying to create the quarantine to create it as invasive with the Department of Plant Protection, and the major campaign through the physical uprooting of this campaign of this parthenium, through the weekly weedicide campaigns, specifically at each season. We are creating the capacity building of the extension staff, the capacity building of the farmers, the awareness. Problem is more than the capacity of the agriculture extension. That's why we are requesting to the irrigation department, to the civil departments, and to the whole of the community to come forward. This weed wherever it has been seen. Opportunity to control it. India has released the Zygroma against the parthenium. We are also working on the Litronotus, another predator from the New Zealand, with the help of Cabby, but taking the opportunity of have a close opportunity with the international community, specifically the weedicide sector. We are making a request to help Pakistan, to help the Punjab agriculture to meet this challenge for the eradication, because it has been seen in sugarcane, it is prevalent in corn, it is encroaching rice, and it is entering into the major crops area, and its period is also extending. And every year is a very prolific seed producer, and every other year is producing more than 10 to 25,000 seeds per plant, and is spreading to the parks and many, almost all the areas where we have vegetation. And it has creating the human health problems, it is creating the livestock problems, apart from the major threat to the environment because of the pollens, to the agriculture by taking the resources, and the Australians. And we have 11 laboratories, biological laboratories in Punjab province. We can work for the rearing of predators for the release. And if it is possible, the bio control can help, otherwise the chemical control or the physical pest can be created with the community mobilization, and every person who's living in the Punjab province has to come forward for the eradication. This is for the parthenium. Wheat on 20 million ton target, and for that purpose we are trying to support the farmers for 8 million acres with the 250 per acre subsidy, because the weedicide prices are rising higher and higher. And in addition to weedicides, we are also having the problem of rusticides, because the rust is also creating a problem, because we have the climate change and the climate shift come together and creating wheat as a challenge crop. That's why this year 20 million ton from the community, from the universities, and from the civil society as a whole for creating awareness. Loss is 4 to 42% of the agriculture, specifically the crops. Thanks, sir, for giving myself the opportunity to.
Thank you, Bhutto Sahab. Very well said. You have given your personal experience and exposure of the Punjab agriculture. Chima Sahab, I beg leave. I have another event to attend, and you can lead the discussion. There are questions in chat box. Nihal can read the questions from chat box, and the speakers can respond to them, or there can be hands raised and they could speak in. The mics could be kept open so that people could talk in. So I beg leave and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been very rewarding. Once again, my request to the speakers to send us abstract and the select picture or figure or table that they wish to have made part of website presentation. Particularly the starting table by Dr. Bajwa was interesting, that how much we lose to weeds. That's interesting estimate. I'm sure those estimates keep changing, but it was a good way to start thinking. All right, thank you.
Dr. Saab, I am highly grateful to you for sparing your time from your busy schedule. And I think we should continue for some minutes the answer and questions. And the important question may be asked and the raise hands.
He left. Nihal will. Yeah.
Hello, Nihal. Do you want to ask any question?
There's someone who's going to ask a question. I think Dr. Ijaz. I've unmuted you.
Dr. Ijaz?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So nice of you. Very fruitful discussions during this session. Sir, actually, I have a very little bit question. The weeds, mainly, they are known for their harmfulness and the infestation capacity. But now, with the changing climatic scenario and the selection pressure, excessive selection pressure we have on our crops, now I think we should precisely we should go for the robust models predicting the population behavior, particularly on the germination, growth, and competition of weeds with the other crops. This is my questions. If any speaker can answer this one.
I think Dr. Bajwa can reply. Dr. Alias Bajwa?
Sure. Thank you, sir. And thanks for the question. Yes, I agree. We need more research for the basic germination and emergence modeling. And this has been an aspect really, we did not have a lot of data on that, but that's not really difficult to do. So it's basically looking at different species at population level. So we assume that each species will be behaving similar in different climatic conditions and also in different geographic conditions, which is not true. So I think we should be doing more of this sort of work at population level. So that's easily doable. So all we need is more integration between different organizations and weed scientists.
Okay, thank you, Bajwa Saab. Is there any other important question from anybody? I think Amar was interested. Dr. Amar.
Thank you, sir. So nice of you. It was a wonderful event, very informative. I have few comments on the subject matter. Being a third generation weed scientist, first one was you, second was Dr. Abdul Khalik, and third is me. So there is some fine tuning is needed regarding weed management. First thing is that weeds are the son of the nature. They will be here. We want to move ecosystem towards monoculture. Nature wants diversity. So one thing is that we should respect weeds. They are the part of the ecosystem. So much discussion was focused on the above ground management of the weeds, while weed seed bank is not being considered, at least in Pakistan. Moreover, I have some reservations regarding Farm 17 registration of the most of the herbicides. They are registered abroad for some other weed flora, but they are being imported in huge numbers. And about 63% of the weedicides are just registered for the weed crop. So we are now the grass killers, especially the ACCA's inhibitors have lost their efficacy, especially the phenoxaprop, clodinafop, phenoxidine. And what companies have started now, they are starting tank mixing. And this tank mixture is even worse. We don't have a true concentration of the active ingredient to control the weed in questions. And even Syngenta risk test that we carried out last year, that is alarming. We have so much resistant populations from DG Khan, Bahawalpur and RYK. That was due to the consistent use of the phenoxaprop and clodinafop, and even some biotides were resistant to the sulfosulfuron. More thing, direct seeded was adopted as a switch from conventional transplanted rice, but the compound to control weed was bispyribate sodium, to which most countries where it was used, there was resistance, already reported cases of resistance to crowfoot grass, Dactyloctinium egyptium, Leucine indica, and so on. And now the farmers who are adopted, they are in no way, there are huge weed infestation and crop failures. So for coming towards the minor crops, especially the peas, chickpeas, lentils, there is no proper herbicide resistance. Market is focusing only on cash crops, and for minor crops, we don't have any pragmatic herbicide solution. So due consideration should be given not only to technology management, but also towards the legislational aspects of the same. Moreover, adaptive research farms should be prioritized to carry out strategic and applied research in the areas of weed science. And last, a few remarks from myself. We are currently focusing on agronomic weed management. We are neglecting the weed management in the natural ecosystem, invasion mechanism, and we don't even have a single weed scientist who can clean your turf or your lawn from purple nutsack. And this has happened even in UF, where a whole lot of money was even spent on the bubbler irrigation solar, but still there were many, even creeping thistle was not controlled. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Dr. Amar, thank you very much for your comments. I would request Dr. Anjum Bhuttar Saab to reply and give his comments. And I think we should conclude the session soon. Dr. Anjum Bhuttar Saab.
Thank you, sir. I think most of the questions raised by the learned speaker I think, are good and can be further dilated. However, the weed resistance and the permissions against the Form 17 is after careful analysis, and we can deliberate and further. If there is specific pesticide, weedicide that can be restricted, we will write to the Department of Plant Protection for that. Otherwise, the international companies who are importing pesticide against Form 17s are having their proper homework before it's actually import and the country of registration. The other issues relating to the weedicide resistance are good, and we can work together for this betterment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question? Then we can continue. Otherwise, I would like to close and conclude this session. Actually, this is a really very informative session, and we have learned a lot from the speakers, new technologies, the problems, and these are definitely a continuous problem. So we had to continue, and as Dr. Ikrar Saab said, that the speakers should give some suggestions and recommendations, brief, so that we can include in future. And I really am thankful to the speakers, especially Ali Hassan Bajwa, because his time is 6 hours ahead of Pakistan, so it's still with us. And also Dr. Buller from PAU and the Dr. Buttar Saab, Dr. Azim Saab, and Dr. Travis from Canada, and Ali Exas from Canada. So all speeches and lectures were very informative, and also thankful to the participants who attended this session. And I think we should work and continue to work on this. And the weed science is a new subject, and we should promote and increase awareness among the farmers. And hope this webinar would give us impetus and the ideas to further work on this field. And we may also discuss with Dr. Ikraf Saab to increase the manpower in this area by starting the science program, science degree, which is already approved on the university list. Oh, and again, I'm thankful to everybody for the nice presentations, nice comments and suggestions, and who we will meet in future in some other session. Thank you, everybody. Allah Hafiz.